Well, welcome to our EdD, Doctor of Education student panel. My name is Serena Seward. I am Associate Director of Admissions here in the School of Education, and we have our current EdD students here with me tonight to talk a little bit more about their experience in the EdD program. Before we get started and really have the moment to talk to our panelists, I will go over the agenda and just some few facts about the EdD program. So let me just orient my slides correctly and we'll be good to go. Okay, so before we get into our panel, I will give a brief overview of the EdD program. Then each of our students will introduce themselves. They'll talk a little bit about their problem of practice, so you know a little bit more about their background in the program and what they're studying, and then we'll open it up to the student panel. We'll start the discussion before we open it up to your Q&A, but we will leave time at the end of the webinar to take live questions from our audience. At that time, you'll use the Q&A function in Zoom to put in your questions. Just know that with a lot of these panels, unfortunately, we aren't able to get to everyone's questions a lot of the times. If that is the case and you have a burning question, we will leave our contact information on the last slide so you can either reach out to the EdD program or to myself to answer any of your questions we might not get to. So switching gears and talking a little bit about the EdD program. So the EdD program is an online asynchronous program. It's 54 credits designed to be part-time. It takes about 3 to 4 years to complete. The program itself is comprised of 90 credits. 36 of those credits are taken from your your master's degree automatically, and then 54 credits are taken here at JHU at the doctoral level. There is a potential for 6 credits to transfer in that you've done at the postmaster's level, either a postmaster certificate or another doctoral program. But that transfer process does require program approval after you are admitted. So a minimum of 48 credits have to be completed here at JHU in order to graduate from the program. In lieu of a traditional dissertation, we currently do a doctoral dossier. That research is really embedded into your coursework. The program is designed to be rigorous and relevant to systemic and social justice perspectives. You use systems thinking in the program to really dive into your problem of practice and your research. And our doctoral dossier allows you to communicate your research in modalities other than just scholarly writing. And I'm sure some of our panelists can talk a little bit about their experience with their dossier research. So moving into the curriculum structure, the program is comprised of 15 credits in the foundations of education, 12 credits in applied research, 12 credits in doctoral dossier research, and then 15 credits in your electives or your areas of interest. The current areas of interest are entrepreneurial leadership in education, learning design and technology, neurodiversity and neuroeducation, and urban leadership. You might hear some of our panelists talk about mind-brain teaching as an area of interest. I know a few of them are currently in that. Our neurodiversity and neuroeducation area of interest takes 2 previous area interests, one of them being that mind-brain teaching one, and putting it into that neurodiversity and neuroeducation. So know that you might hear that they're in different areas of interest, but they are represented in the 4 that we are currently offering. So the doctoral dossier is the final and most significant requirement for the EdD program. You will focus on a problem of practice. You put forth that problem of practice within your admissions application. It is a culmination of independently completed but closely related and interrelated projects. It is embedded into every year of the program, meaning that in year one, you complete a project within your dossier. So you're taking that first doctoral dossier credit in the curriculum in year one, and then in year two, you take another one, year three, and year four. So you don't wait till the end of the program to do all of your research and dissertation. It's embedded from day one into what you're doing in your coursework. And the problem of practice should be something that has the potential for significant change within your context of professional practice and or have implications for education policy. So the program really wants you to research something that is practical, going to be applied to what you're doing in your professional context. The four projects that are three projects in your final defense are laid out here. So they're based on Boyer's 1994 scholarship domains. Project number one happens in year one, and this is the scholarship of integration. This is really a literature analysis and a systems thinking examination of your problem of practice. One of the questions I get often from students is how nailed down does your problem of practice have to be before coming into the program? And I'm sure our students can talk to you a little bit more about that, but it definitely can ebb and flow a little bit in that first year. And that first year is designed for you to examine it to really nail it down. In year two, you can choose either the scholarship of teaching or the scholarship of application. Year three, you can choose either of the ones you did not choose in year two or the scholarship of discovery. And that is really your chance to do your own empirical research if it is required. And then in your final year, you write an executive summary of your doctoral experience, and you defend your research orally. Okay, without further ado, we are going to allow our students to introduce themselves, and we'll kind of go from like top left down the first column and then in the second column. So that's the order that you guys can hop on. And then after that, I'll stop sharing my screen so you can see our faces and we'll get into a more in-depth conversation. So if you want to take it away and introduce yourself, that would be great.
All right, I think I am first. I'm Bonet Robinson here, and I am in the 2022 cohort. I actually defend a week from now. Um, so I just realized that I did not share my area of interest, or for my problem of practice, but I have spent these last 3 years exploring cultural synchrony or dyssynchrony in public education and how achievement disparity can result from a cultural disconnect within teachers, students, and school systems that is like a top-down systematic thing, not just through deficit narratives that typically get placed on students. And so just systems and culture and synchrony in public education is what I've been looking at for these last few years.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Caroline Bueller, and I am in the 2024 cohort. So I'm in my second year in the program. My problem of practice, I think I entered into the program in the mind-brain teaching area of interest. And my problem of practice looks at how stereotyping based on gender impacts high school outcomes for students. So looking at college matriculation rates, test scores, and general experience in school. I'm hoping to, as a part of my dossier, develop a professional development curriculum for educators to talk about implicit bias and gender stereotypes. So thank you.
Hi, Kevin Andriowski. My problem of practice deals with students who have experienced foster care and specifically post-secondary educational attainment of them. So figuring out why there is a wide gap between graduation rates in high school and in college and what we can do to kind of close that gap, specifically looking at it through the eyes of individuals who have experienced foster care.
Hi, everybody. Super happy to be here. I'm from the 2022 cohort, along with Bonet and Jeffrey. It's good to see my friends here. As it says here, I work in elementary school. I teach little humans how to learn languages. When time of instruction is limited, most of the research is on how to teach when you teach the class daily. But nearly half of the programs in elementary school for world language are below that minimum recommended, and it's an area that is under researched and underserved. So that's what I do.
Hi, my name is William. I'm in 2025 cohort, so I'm like first year student in this program. My prom practice is about student engagement, student disengagement, especially in China, in this exam-driven schooling. I work in a charitable organization advocating for new landscape, new ways of education in China. So I hope that my program practice, my research will inform my practice, and we'll talk more later. Thank you.
And hi, I'm Jeff Beers. I'm in the 2022 cohort as well. Like Benet, I am defending in 16 days, so it's coming up. Circulating my dissertation tomorrow, I'm sure very late in the day since I'm still finding typos. But my problem of practice is LGBTQ inclusivity in undergraduate STEM programming. And my concentration in the program was entrepreneurial leadership and education. So nice to see everyone.
Great. Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves and your willingness to be here. So I'll stop sharing now just so the panelists, you can see them a little bit more clearly and we can have a candid conversation. So we'll start out really easy. And if we just want to have maybe like 2 or 3 of you answer this question, what appealed most to you about the EdD program specifically at the School of Education? Yeah, go ahead, Jeffrey, and Caroline. Go ahead.
Sure, I would say that the flexibility, a lot of us I think work full time, have families and kids and things like that. So it was very attractive to me to be able to go through the program or in a doctorate. It's a personal goal of mine without having to sort of put a lot of things on hold. We'll get to the challenging part of that, but I think the flexibility of going through the program was a big attraction to me, as well as doing it at Hopkins and sort of knowing that there were also faculty that had, so interest that I was interested in to sort of align my work with as well.
Great.
Seconding all of that, I think especially for a professional doctorate, like a doctor of education, where you're looking at kind of the practical implications of your work, it was really important to me to continue to be in the work while I was going through the program. On top of that, I like the flexibility, same thing, family, job. I like my job. And so getting to do all of that while growing kind of as a member of the field of education.
Awesome. And then Kevin, do you want to round out the question?
Yeah, I would say for me, I ended up turning towards EdD versus PhD because I like the praxis of it. Like I liked the idea of what we're learning can be directly applied. And although I am a sucker for theory, it's not just theoretical writing a 300-page paper that no one will ever read. Like you're doing stuff that can be directly applied and feels grounded in reality, which is nice.
Awesome.
Oh, also I'm 2024 cohort. Didn't say that before.
Great. Perfect. So we have a question in the chat that I think goes into one of the other questions that I had originally for you. So can you talk a little bit about maybe what a typical day, week, month looks like for you as a student, and then maybe like some typical assignments and deadlines? Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, for a little bit of context, when I started the program, my son had just graduated high school, and I'm divorced, so I had a little bit more room to focus on the program. So whatever I'm gonna say, know that is the case. Um, I I would say I would spend typically over 25 hours a week. And I would make sure that I had a plan for the week of how I was gonna break down everything that that was coming up. In part because information is something you need to let marinate, so your brain can actually work on it. So instead of cramming it, and it also takes a bit of awareness of when do you work at your best. Like for example, after a long day of work, when I don't feel like, especially living in Vegas, the temperature is 110 degrees, I'm beat up. I enjoy sitting down to read. There's going to be a lot of reading, so I reserve most of the readings for weeknights when I could sit down, and for me that is relaxing, and I don't have to create anything I'm consuming. It's easier to eat a cake than make one, right? So if I'm reading, I'm decoding, and then that would help me build up what I would write about for discussions and papers and things like that. So it was like a night reading and weekend warrior for the writing part.
Great, thank you. And then William, did I see your hand?
Yeah, yes.
Go ahead.
Following up with what Ron said, I think time management is like the thing that we really need to work on. Work, life, family, and all this stuff all together. Like I'm now in the first year and we're taking 2 courses, and basically it's all about rethinking about our problem practice. So it's I was like in our 3rd month. So 3 months ago, I thought I know my problem practice, but now I feel like I don't know about my problem practice. So I think the process of reading and reading and thinking, and the great thing about the program is most of the course material are asynchronous. So actually I can manage my time according to my schedule. But then the support is always there. So I can talk to my mentor, I can talk to my advisor. Instructor. So yeah, so that's my response for now.
Great, awesome. And then Benay.
Yeah, I just echoing what others have said. I think one you also asked about like typical assignments and
Yeah.
be prepared for discussion posts. At least that was my experience. And they typically are due like on the same days. So, like Thursday night, I have to post by then, and it becomes second nature. And responses as well. I do think that a lot of the professors in the MPT program utilize the voice thread or like videos panopto. So we went from like typing to actually talking, and a lot of my cohort felt like that made us more connected and just gave us a chance to kind of like get out of our head, but and socialize as well as just be cordial with our research, and we enjoyed that for the most part. So lots of discussions, and that is pretty routine. Like it's something that you will do every session. I don't know if the new cohorts have sessions, but everything is arranged through sessions and modules. So knowing those session end dates, especially if they don't line up with your other course, is key to keeping organized.
Great, thank you. And that's a perfect segue to the next question. I get a lot of questions about, how much interaction do you have with other students in the program? How do you build relationships with each other? So if you want to talk about that, that'd be great. Caroline, I saw your hand, so go ahead.
Yeah, this was something I was really nervous about. I don't know. I was hoping to meet people through the program. I was kind of, I don't know, thought it would be nice if I did. And I really, really have. I feel like they told us that, oh, you're going to meet people. You're going to have a group of people you talk to. You're going to have all this stuff. And I just wasn't sure about it. But you meet people at the residency in Baltimore in the summer. Kevin and I actually lived in the same city last year. And so we met up a couple times. I have like a text group that I'm like in constant contact with, and we sign up for the same courses so that we kind of know each other in there and can work together and talk about assignments and like bounce ideas off of each other. So I've actually found that it's a really tight-knit community. I now live in Boston, and there's a group of people who call themselves the Boston crew, and they like do dinners and stuff. So you're always, even if you're not around Baltimore, the opportunity is out there. One more thing, I like the professors are so great. One of the professors who lives in Baltimore has said multiple times, like, if you're ever in the area, let's get coffee, let's meet up. So I feel like everyone is super personable, even though you're at home on your own doing this.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add anything, even relationships with professors? That would be great. I saw that there was a question about that as well.
Yes,
Oh,
that I cannot even. I'm sorry, Panay. I'm just so excited about answering this one because it is so true. I mean, it's been, to give you an example, I came in to become a better teacher. Basically, that was my goal. And in the first year, I received some feedback from Dr. Smith. So and all the feedback was about policy. So how do you read, did you read that into what I wrote? And now I'm actually working with a legislature here in Nevada as a result of those conversations. We have become really tight to the point where like can just send them emails about a number of different things. And also when we go to Baltimore, those meetings are very special. I actually ended up with one of my professors walking endlessly all around Baltimore looking for a coffee shop that wasn't Starbucks because she refused to drink a Starbucks. But that's the kind of like personal level and connection that I've gotten from several professors, which, you know, thinking ahead is very important, I think, when you start deciding on your committee, who you're going to defend you know, it's important to build those relationships, and you'll find them because we have such a wide range of backgrounds in the faculty.
Great. And then I know Benet was going to say something, so you can definitely weigh in, and then we'll have Kevin round out the question.
yeah, I'll just add to what Ron said. Like a lot, our professors have done research and they love to talk about it. So if it's in your interest, reach out to them and chat about their research, and that's a great way to build those professional connections.
And then I would say I finished up my second master's over COVID, and honestly, I was kind of burnt out at the time. And so I put very little effort into meeting and talking with classmates and talking with professors because I was like, you know what, whatever. Uh, you kind of get out what you put in. So I have, much like Caroline, developed like a core group of people that we're always texting. We take classes together. I feel like I have a personal relationship with my advisor. And that's also because I made a concerted effort to go to the residencies every summer and to ask them questions and talk to them about their research. So if it is harder to form relationships online because you actually have to put in the effort, you're not just going to run into each other in the classroom. But once you do, everyone in the program and every professor I've talked to is very willing to like form these relationships and to nurture them with you.
Great. Awesome. So I am seeing some questions in the chat a little bit about the like advising structure and the support structures. So do you want to talk about, you know, how it is that you're assigned an advisor and what that looks like for your advising group? Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I think at least the way that it worked for us, I'm in the entrepreneurial leadership cohort, and we were sort of assigned an advisor, but ahead of time they sort of asked for everyone's interest beyond just your concentration. And I think at least for me, they matched me with my advisor really well. Based on my interests, I had my advisor for one of my courses. And I text him a lot at the moment. He's a chair of my committee. That might be why, but I also really like discussing things with him. So I think sort of the matching process when they ask, they obviously know what your concentration is, but they also ask further about your problem of practice and what your interests are. And I was very fortunate that I got a fantastic advisor who's very involved. Like I said, I text him personally all the time. I've done it multiple times this week, and he's always very responsive, and he's really a champion. So he's extremely encouraging and sort of always reminding you like the goal is to get you through this, and he's here to help. And so it's been very encouraging. And I think the only other thing that I would say is in terms of the coursework, um, to the extent you're able to go to the sync sessions, try to go to those sync sessions when they have them, because that is sort of your, face to face. And that's also where you not only get to know your classmates, but you also get to know your professors. The more you're able to go to those, the better, because I think that that's where a lot of the relationships develop too.
Great. Anybody else want to weigh in? Okay. Can you, now that you mentioned like synchronous questions, I know a lot of students have questions about asynchronous versus synchronous classes. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that works? Yeah, go ahead, Caroline.
Yeah. So I I think I thought coming into the program that it would be, sorry, my camera does a weird Zoom thing. I don't know if that's happening right now, but
Okay.
I thought it was going to be far more synchronous when I like joined the program and started. And so at first I almost felt a little bit disappointed. I wanted more of that like weekly time. But I would say we do have synchronous sessions fairly often. I make an effort to go to all of them. And then I think I responded to someone in the Q&A, but in terms of like the mandatory nature, I have a woman in one of my courses. We've taken a few classes together and she is in Japan. And so her timing just doesn't work out for a lot of our sync sessions. So every class is recorded. This week I have like a somewhat mandatory sync session coming up where we're going to discuss a case study, and the professor's offering 2 different times. And if you can't make either of those, there is a discussion board option. So if you can't do any of those times, you can just post on a discussion board answering the questions. So they're really accommodating, but also they do, I don't know, they do want to make it feel like a personalized program. They do want to make it feel like you know them and you're gaining knowledge in actual class time. I would say it varies from class to class. I also have had professors who like to do a lot of one-on-one meetings, like meeting pretty consistently. So kind of all sorts of ways to approach it, but.
Great.
I would like to add also that you'll find some professors like once you click with them, they might I can't tell, I don't want to say names, I don't want to commit anybody, but they've spent a lot more time than the allocated time in the meeting. I've been known to meet with professors even on the weekends because they offer it. It depends where you're working and the relationship you build for sure. And I mean, you can use the asynchronous part to your advantage. Sometimes you want, you always want to present your best foot forward. So that kind of gives you a little bit time to like, am I sure I'm understanding this? Maybe, text somebody from the cohort that you feel confident with before you ask a question or whatever. But it gives you that kind of to this operate in a discreet way. But absolutely take advantage of every synchronous opportunity you might have, as well as going to Baltimore, because at the end of the day, our brains were evolved to speak, person to person, not through a screen and not through writing necessarily. So it definitely makes a difference.
Awesome. Um, Along the same lines, does anyone want to talk about their residency or orientation if they had a chance to attend in person, what that experience was like?
Yeah, I'll chime in on that because I think I just responded to someone about residency in the chat, but I'll expand. But I would say if you are able to go, definitely attend it with an online program. I think that just putting a face to the colleagues that we respond to their discussion post, or we see like their comments, that was like a very fulfilling experience for a lot of us, and a lot of my cohort shared the same thing, that uh residency just it made us feel like just a sense of belonging that I think is important in an EdD or any kind of academic journey. So I think residency has been great in my experiences.
And as a first year student, I still remember like the last residency when we were welcomed by like all the students that were in year 2, 3, 4. And that was like the big community that we feel like being part of, and also being able to not just talk to our cohort, but also to the other cohort to get experience from them, to get some insights. And yeah, so I think the residency gives not just the link, not just the kind of like the sense of community, but also like the confidence to move on. Yeah, so join us.
Great. And in terms of just like I know some of you are further into the program, and William, you're right, brand spanking new. So any advice that any of you, maybe more seasoned or new, could give to prospective students in preparing their application or just preparing for their doctoral journey ahead, maybe for the few of you who are about to defend, what is it that you wish you would have known before you said yes and could, kind of prepare yourself? So we'll start with Ron and then anyone else who wants to chime in.
Yeah, I just actually answered that by typing. Been trying to help as much as I can with my my fingers here. Um, uh, I full disclosure, I've been studying nonstop since 2014. So there was no transition. The transition was getting started, over 10 years ago. Um, but what I would say is that, somebody asked about the GRE and so on. Don't worry too much about that because this program is designed for working professionals, essentially. You have a huge advantage here, at least speaking for myself, that I get to test everything that I learn pretty much daily. I learn something, I read something, I see how it applies to my context, I try it. And that helps me either to see if it works or not for me, but also to generate questions that I can ask, the faculty. But your life, don't underestimate your life experience as a professional. Anything you have done, see, all of those things add up to who you are today and what you might add to the field of knowledge, which is why we push ourselves to do a doctorate. So think about all those things and be objective by asking other people who know you. It's like what recognitions have you had? What comments have people said to you when you're part of a group? What is it that you're typically delegated to do or people look up to you to do? Those things are what add up to what you bring to the table.
Awesome. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just adding to what Ron said about I saw a couple of questions about like how certain do you have to be about your problem of practice, and
Yeah.
I feel like my problem of practice significantly changed from what I'm going to defend in a week. And it was a part of the process and it was welcome. And I will say that for the 2022 cohort, we do have a different final project. So to my understanding, so I can't speak on all aspects of it, but keeping a researcher journal, like mine is literally right here and it's pretty beat up at this point, but this has been kind of like my diary and it's built my dissertation along with like all the other things. But that helped me go back and track. Like my first entry was in 2019 before I even thought about applying to the program. And I've just been able to trace my thought process. And I think that will help you just have that audit trail. So you may not be certain of what you're going to actually defend in 3 years from now or whenever that time will come, but read as much as you can and read outside of your specialization area as well, because I am MBT, but policy is also something that's very dear to me. So I've been excited to mix and professors encourage that. So I was thankful for that.
Awesome. Does anyone else want to talk about, go ahead.
When I wrote my admissions essay with the problem of practice that I brought into the program, I was super excited about it. And then I got in and you have to start like looking for sources that back up that this is a problem that exists, not just in your direct context. And you do that over the summer during like your initial modules while you're kind of preparing to enter into the program, or at least we did in my cohort. I don't know if they still do it. But during that, I was like, oh, this may be just a problem that I personally feel like exists and doesn't exist in a wider context. And so my problem shifted almost immediately, and that was all good. And it really has kind of stayed the same since that initial shift. But I've had friends write and rewrite their problem just as you read more, as you take more classes, you talk with your professors, just kind of seeing, you know, how the problem exists in a wider context. So I think just be open-minded is the biggest thing.
Awesome. Does anyone else either want to talk about their problem of practice, any changes it has gone through, or want to talk about your employer? Has anyone changed employers throughout the program? If you have, like what that has looked like. Go ahead, Ron, you can start.
Yeah, I'll talk about the problem of practice only
Yeah.
for this one. The one thing that I do not recommend to everybody is just talk about your problem of practice, not only with your with the faculty or fellow students. Talk about it with people who have no background. I can't tell you how many Uber and taxi drivers know a lot more about language education because, you know, like they're driving me to Hopkins for residencies. Oh, what are you doing there? And I use every opportunity to talk about it because remember, I work with children, right? So I need to sometimes explain things that are very complex in a way they can understand it. That holds true also for the POP. It helps you understand it better when you talk to people about it, your friends, your family. If you can't explain it to them, you know, they're gonna probably start setting up a intervention or something with you. So, what are you doing? That's part of the process is talking about it. I can't emphasize that enough. Talk about it, try to explain it. And in doing that, sometimes you're gonna get challenged. Happened with me. My former brother-in-law, he asked me something I couldn't answer. I couldn't defend my position, why I was doing something. And that led me to like, okay, so am I going down the right track or am I not finding the right words? And those questions are very important in elaborating your POP.
Great. Go ahead, Kevin.
What Ron said actually kind of made me think is my POP has shifted multiple times back and forth throughout the program. How I explained it to my advisor at residency was like I went in thinking I was studying one thing and I was just like digging down that mine shaft, and then research led me in one direction and I kind of went off in that direction and kept digging there, and eventually it led me back to the main tunnel I started in, but from a different lens. And so like I changed and I didn't change and I changed. And like Ron was saying, you got to leave yourself open to having all these conversations with people and being willing to realize, oh, I don't understand this like I thought I did. Like I thought coming into this program, it would be somewhat of an echo chamber because I've got 2 masters and both of them were echo chambers. It was a bunch of educators who are learning to be better educators. This program has doctors and lawyers and professors and people from all different walks of life, and they will give you views on your pop that you never expected. And you have to be able to be like, I never thought about it that way. And that will help change your pop and point you in a new direction. So that's one of the strengths of the program, and it's really helped me refine the way I think.
And I like
So
to add, like the program is practice-based research. So actually the research question is related heavily to what I do every single day. So actually every day is a research process. Even though I'm not reading my lit, I am researching. So I'm always thinking about, okay, so how to solve student disengagement. Why am I seeing this? Why I'm seeing that? And do I have lit like article to support me for that? So I think that the great thing about this program and how it relate to my work is like actually the research inform my work and my work inform my research. So I think that's the beautiful thing about this.
awesome. Go ahead, Caroline.
I was going to say that I did switch jobs in the program just to answer that initial
Yeah.
question. I moved across the country this fall. So started at a new school, and my POP is specifically looking at gender stereotyping of male students in education. And I started working at an all-girls school. So, but my advisor has been kind of super helpful in framing how I'm going to continue to look at my problem. I have done like networking at all boys schools in the area and started to kind of build a community here, as well as maintain a community at my school that I left, where I kind of started this this research. So, but it's just keeping that open chain of communication. I was really nervous switching jobs because, you know, you start looking at a problem in your context. But that is also part of why they want it to be seen very broadly, because if you switch jobs or have to move or anything like that happens, the problem can't just exist in that one school or hospital or wherever you were. It has to exist on a national or global level. So that's one thing that they kind of push in your first year, which was really helpful.
Great. And then we'll shift gears a little bit. Does anyone want to talk about any obstacles or challenges that they have faced in the program? And then, you know, how have you successfully overcome those? Go ahead, Jeff.
I would say, if you know, like sort of like what I alluded to at the beginning is, you know, a lot of us are full-time working professionals going through a program, have a lot on our personal lives, and I'll say, at least on the personal side for me, going through the program, I had a young toddler when I first started. He was, you know, just 2 years old. My husband and I welcomed twins while I was in the program. You know, I had elderly parents who were diagnosed with illnesses during the program, and so there were a lot of sort of personal shifts that weren't necessarily anticipated while I was in the program. But I think that the main thing to remember is to just communicate. Um, all of my professors at any one of those obstacles, hurdles, was very understanding. If I said, "Hey, this unexpected thing happened. Could I have a little flexibility?" You know, they're very open to that as long as you communicate that with them. So I would just say, if you experience professional or personal hurdles at all during the program, trying to manage a really hectic schedule, or what can be a very hectic schedule, especially at certain times of the year, just be communicating. And like others have mentioned, you know, I also have from my cohort my WhatsApp group of people that I still communicate with. So sometimes, even if it wasn't something that I needed to talk to a professor about, or, you know, ask for an extension on something, just kind of venting to your classmates and be like, "Oh my gosh, I just had a really bad week. This is what happened." You know, and you know, having that outlet with your other classmates. So again, I would just say it all kind of falls into that: communicate it. Don't bottle it up. It really helps get through any sort of obstacle that may come at you that you're not expecting during the program, at least from my own experience.
Great. Go ahead, Benay.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Jeff said. Life is going to life, and with that, I have been amazed at how the professors in a doctoral level program have been so have added just this humanity aspect where they have like reminded us to rest, and at least on for the MBT professors, because that's what I'm most familiar with. So I'm speaking from that experience. Um, and that just they do offer grace because they are invested in our learning and in our growth as a practitioner researcher. And the something that I dealt with early on in the program was imposter syndrome, and I didn't even know what it like that's what it was called. Something that I ended up doing to kind of combat that is I had to tap into my creative outlet, and that's my happy space. But I joined it with my Hopkins uh, responsibilities, and I made like a very Hopkins specific EdD planner that I shared with a lot of you all already through residency. And that is kind of a part of my research journal where I just built it to like be a course companion, and sharing that with my cohort, or just like being able to reflect in that piece was a way for me to feel grounded. So just look for ways to be grounded in the work, and to like remind yourself what you're in it for so that you can enjoy it. Because truly it is expensive, and you want the quality out of it. And there are many ways to do that. I believe.
Great. All right. Well, to round out our evening, I'll ask one final easy question. And while you are all answering, I will put our contact information up and share that. But what has been your favorite experience in the program so far? Go ahead.
I can go.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm going to start us out with two. I really, really enjoy residency. I think it's a really special time. It just feels like you're learning and you're meeting people and you're growing and you're kind of entering into this program, and it's a really special time. And then I think beside that, turning in my literature review was like this. It was the longest paper I've ever written. I felt so proud of it. It had been workshopped and all this stuff. And it felt kind of like the first like true step on this journey. So a really special thing to get to do so early on in the program.
Yeah, it might sound like I'm copying Caroline. I was actually going to say two very similar responses. So for various reasons, I wasn't able to go to residency every year, but when I was able to go, that really was sort of my favorite for sort of seeing everyone in person and meeting faculty in person that were able to go. So I think that sort of in-person dimension was extremely beneficial. So I would echo that. And I was actually also going to say, again, sort of approaching the end of the program, I didn't stress myself out trying to finish over the summer. I knew I wanted to take a little bit longer. My advisors were fine with that. And I'm actually really glad that I took that extra time, because I actually overall enjoyed the process of writing the dissertation. And again, I'm 2022 cohort, so my final project looks a little differently than a lot of yours maybe. But because I, sort of worked it out and took a little bit longer, I actually really enjoyed the process of writing my dissertation, and it's something that I'm really proud of. So very similar to what Caroline said, but I would say that those are kind of my two favorite aspects so far.
And
Great.
I would say also I've been to all the residencies since I started the program. One thing that I would add is that you also meet people from different cohorts. People that, so you establish those connections as well. So you might find, like in my case, when I started, I was the only person who was working on world language education per se. And since then, I've met a couple of people who are involved in that directly or indirectly. They are from different cohorts. I even met somebody from Vegas, there. I didn't know, I met her there, and we have connected here. There's three of us. So we are the awesome Las Vegas, JSU team. That has been, and meeting everybody in person. I mean, I cannot emphasize that enough, especially if you feel any sense of imposter syndrome. Studying online, I found, because it happened also when I started at Columbia, during COVID, it was like you don't really feel you belong until you're there physically. At least for me, that was the case. It's like it became real the moment I stepped foot into the university.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate your willingness to share information with our prospective students. For all of our attendees, if you have any additional questions about the admissions process, the application, please reach out to me. If you have specific questions about the program, you can reach out to Denise at soe.edd@jhu.edu. Thank you all for being here. If you didn't get to catch all of it, or you want to go and rewatch some of the brilliant answers that our panelists had, we will send out the recording next week. All right, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.